Welcome to another edition of Motoring 88.
Real fun is on the road.
This is Jim Kenzie for Motoring 90.
I'm Phil Gardner, Motoring 88.
This is the 2-minute test drive.
One of the many pitfalls car makers try and avoid is to allow a vehicle to get, shall we say, long in the tooth. So they try and update and refresh every few years. However, if the vehicle is not holding its own in the showroom, well, it simply becomes history. No point throwing any more cash at it. Now, conversely, if the car is a success, the pressure is on to keep the momentum going and you, the consumer, interested. Well, the biggest success story in this country has been the Honda Civic. It's been the best-selling car in Canada for 18 years. Well, this is, and you're ready for this, the 10th generation Civic. Notice something different? Yep, it's a hatchback. Why do I sound so surprised? As we all know, Canadians love hatchbacks, but 17 years ago, Honda decided to dump the hatch and you couldn't get one in North America. And I suggest that's a decision Honda would like to forget.
I don't think we regret this decision. I think a lot of decisions that we made is based on market conditions. And at that time, the market condition is not ready for the hatchback anymore. And we focus on the sedan and coupe. And I think in the past couple of years, we have seen a resurgence of the demand for hatchback.
Well, we didn't quite drop the hatch. It took a hiatus, as you know today. At the time, the hatch made sense, and it was our Civic model at the time. But since then, we've had sedans, coupes, and we have lots of variations to satisfy the customers, and we've been number one ever since. We brought the hatch for a different reason this time. We needed to expand our lineup to solidify our Civic sales. As you know, we've been 18 years in a row, number one, and we're looking like we're going to get to 19th year this year. And for us to keep going with that kind of a sales record, we had to ensure that we appeal to every Canadian wherever possible.
I wouldn't say it's a no-brainer. I think the competitors, they are always challenging us for this, the leadership position. If we want to stay ahead, we got to keep reinventing ourselves by offering more choices to consumer because, consumer nowadays, I think whether it's automotive or anything else, they want choices.
And its name is back, but it's a completely different vehicle. We took the 4-door and we made it into a 5-door version. But again, we emphasize on the sportiness and the premiumness of the Civic. The powertrain is quite different. It has a standard 1.5-liter turbo and a high output version on the higher models. You can see the design changes, much more sporty. The rear overhang is shortened, which makes it a nice hunkered look. And the aero kits and the chisel look really gives it a sort of a coupe-like silhouette, but again, versatile as a hatchback.
Okay, the good, the bad, and the good with this hatch. I like the interior and lots of room to put your stuff. The other thing is fuel economy. I don't normally talk about that because it really depends on your driving habits. But when I was driving the stick, I was getting 6.9 liters per 100 kilometers. I mean, that's outstanding. I know it's only a 1.5 liter engine, but I was thrashing this sucker. The bad? The touchscreen. You've heard me talk about this before, especially with the audio. It's difficult to use, and I think it's distracting, and it's a safety issue. Yes, you have the alternative volume on the steering wheel, but believe me, it brings up that question again, why reinvent the wheel, or in this case, the dial? But good news, Honda tells me they're bringing back the knob.
This is not the end of our line. We still have 2 more models to launch for Civic, the longly awaited Type R, and the SI versions of the Civic, which will be coming next year.
I think this vehicle, of course, is going to bring in some loyal customers that owns Honda, but we feel that we're going to attract some new customers to our brand.
So I hope you guys are staying tuned.
Bottom line on the Civic hatchback, well, as someone commented, it's a Honda. Well-built, peppy turbo with great fuel economy no matter how you thrash it. And I know automatics are on the rise, and there's nothing wrong with the auto on this hatchback, but I think it would be cruel and unusual punishment to pair this vehicle without the 6-speed stick.
The best car I ever owned in my life was a 29 Nash.
And why was that?
Because it was really built solid. I could fix it with a hairpin. Try to do that with one of your cars today.
Motoring TV is brought to you in part by Stark Auto Sales, a better way to buy a car.
From the elongated hood to the tight bustled rear end, there's just something about a roadster. On this edition of Test Drive, the Mercedes-Benz SL. Switching from winter-ready coupe to drop-top roadster requires holding a button for around 15 seconds, and the transformation can be done at speeds of up to 40 kilometers an hour. The sail-like proportions of the panels when they're halfway through their closing procedure dissuaded me from putting this aspect to the test. Regardless, the intricate mechanical ballet is a thing of beauty that sees the various parts pass within millimeters as it assumes its position in the trunk. Now, on the surface of it, trunk space in this SL 450 might seem a little tight, but far from it. With the roof up, you've actually got 485 litres of cargo space. And even when you got this thing folded down into the trunk, there's still 345. That's enough for test drive. The pylons, all of the electronics, and of course, the camera bag. Now that is impressive. Power for the SL 450 comes from a 3-litre twin-turbo V6. It generates a healthy 362 horsepower and, more importantly, 369 pound-feet of torque at a low 2,000 RPM. It also sounds the part when the driver gets on the gas. Now, the SL drives its rear wheels through a 9-speed manumatic transmission. It shifts with impeccable quality and it's quick to respond to a paddle shifter input. Left to its own devices, it does a very good job of finding the right gear for the situation. This combination sees the SL 450 run from rest to 100k in 4.9 seconds, which is more than fast enough for most drivers. Now, if this 450 doesn't have quite enough mustard for you, there are two AMG alternatives. The first is the SL63. It has a 5.5-litre twin-turbo V8 that pushes 577 horsepower. Now that's enough to get you to 100k in 4.1 seconds. The other alternative is the SL65, although its technology is beginning to show its age. That's why it's only a tenth of a second faster. In the end, the smart money's going to go with the SL63. The SL chassis is one solid piece. Regardless of the tin top's position, there is absolutely no cowl shake. Part of the reason lies in the reworked chassis. The use of aluminum makes the Roadster 140 kilograms lighter than its predecessor, and it manages this while stiffening the chassis at the same time. It has 20% better rigidity. This means the suspension can do its thing without having to compensate for a body that's shaky and shimmying like a crazed go-go dancer. Now, this SL's cabin is all about the driver, from the comfort and the support the seats deliver to the materials, all very good indeed. Now, the instrumentation, yeah, it's a little old school, but it gets the job done. Then there's the command system. It looks after all of the infotainment system and allows you to tailor the car. There's Eco, Comfort, Sport, Sport Plus and Individual. Individual allows you to tailor the suspension, steering, engine and so on to your like specifically. In the end, this car can be a kitten or a tiger. Through the pylons, the SL hunkered down and tackled the run with a rare tenacity, and for a couple of reasons. First, the 255/35R19 front and 285/30R19 rear tyres deliver a ton of grip. Another handling helper is found in the brake-based torque vectoring. It dabs the brake on the inside rear wheel in a corner to reduce understeer. This, the keen steering response and powerful brakes allow the driver to explore the SL's limits without suffering from the usual white-knuckle moments. Now, I've always liked the SL Roadster because it can be all things to all people. It is a cozy coupe and it's a very accomplished drop-top roadster. Of course, what adds to its allure? It handles like the Dickens and there's as much power as anyone could possibly want. As for me, time for some more fun.
For 2016, Toyota Tacoma was all new engine, body upgrades. However, for 2017, they've brought us the TRD Pro, that's Toyota Racing Development. And frankly, this has suspension components and off-road features that a lot of guys in Canada will tell you is second to none. Well, we're just about to take off on the course to see if that's true. So what makes a great off-roader? Excellent traction? Yes. Good ground clearance? Yes. Superior shocks? Yes. And it will also need enough power to make it through the toughest terrain. The TRD Pro has all these features, and together they equal a great off-roader, one that will conquer any countryside. There is another aspect to the Pro that must be mentioned. While it's great off-road, it doesn't beat you up when driving on pavement. This suspension works in both worlds, and that's an important feature for buyers to remember. So what makes this Tacoma TRD a Pro? Well, for starters, a locking rear differential, crawl control, hill start assist, and most importantly, select terrain four-wheel drive. And it's these systems that make this a backcountry beast. Now, inside, like every Tacoma, there's also a dash-mounted GoPro mount. So, yeah, you can keep track of all the stuff that you do out there. Protecting all those vital underside components are sturdy skid plates, while the sharp approach and departure angles of the body let you tackle steep grades without dragging the bumpers. While Tacoma TRD Pro only offers one powertrain, its two-speed transfer case magnifies the V6's power with a low-range setting that nevertheless still runs the truck up to 60 kilometers an hour, and for off-road, that's fast. This TRD Pro features shocks, suspension, ground clearance, which makes it a fabulous off-roader, and frankly, just a lot of fun. And that's what we've been doing on this off-road course here today. And thankfully, we've even had some rain, which made it that much more interesting. But in truth, if you want a better off-roader, you might want to consider one of these. It's probably the only thing I could find here today that does a better job than this TRD Pro.
The Stinger to me is a milestone for Kia. It is going to be a brand shaper. It's going to change the image of Kia and it's going to move Kia up image-wise. But this is not the end. So we are still hungry and making some other very nice cars you can expect in the future.
Our motoring tip of the week concerns tire inflation pressure. Now, as a mechanic, it's the foundation or one of the very first things that you want to do when you're servicing a vehicle. For example, you take your vehicle in for a wheel alignment, the very first thing a wheel alignment tech does is check tire pressure on all four and set it to spec. Before they put the heads on, before they make any adjustments, before they touch anything, tire pressure is the very first thing. And if your tires are underinflated, you're wearing them out too fast, you're wasting fuel, your vehicle won't handle right, you're shortening the life of the tires. It's just an unsafe situation. And in many cases, this vehicle, for example, this morning when I checked it, each tire, all four were at the identical pressure and they were all 10 pounds underinflated versus the spec on the car. Now they're big tires, so they didn't look underinflated, and that's one of the danger points is the fact that a tire can be considerably underinflated and not look it visually. And you know, if you're tired of putting dollar coins into the tire inflation machine, you can buy a tool like this. The same battery that powers your drills and impact guns goes in this tool. You hook it up to the valve stem. There's a little digital readout for the tire pressure, and you can use this to completely inflate your tires. You know, if you're not getting your vehicle in for servicing and somebody's not actually looking at it, can go months and months without a tire pressure check. Every month you lose approximately 1 psi, and as the ambient temperature drops, for every 5 degrees Celsius that you drop the ambient temp, you lose another psi. So let's say you check this, you know, a few weeks ago and it was 15 degrees Celsius and today it's 0, you've lost 3 psi right there just on the temperature change. 1 psi per month, it adds up to underinflated tires, and that can be a dangerous situation. So check them on a regular basis. That's your motoring tip of the week.
You've all heard me talk about some cars having a split personality. Well, today's car adds a new element, luxury. Now, I'm not talking about just any luxury. I'm talking about business class jet level luxury. If you have a big enough checkbook and you love BMWs, man, do I have a car to show you. That's a 2017 BMW Alpina B7, and this is the 2-minute test drive. Where I'm sitting now, this car is all business. 600 horsepower from its twin-turbo 4.4-liter V8. It also has all-wheel drive and all-wheel steering, and that's just the start. It has an 8-speed transmission and a variety of different driving modes. In sport, it lowers the car by 20 millimeters. This really is a driver's car, a true luxury sports sedan. This car will go 310 kilometers an hour, but right now it's going 0. That's because I pulled over and wanted to show you the level of commitment BMW has to driving. Take a look at these seats, look like normal seats. But when I put my seatbelt on, the bladders inside these seats actually blow up and hold me tight. They fit me perfectly, like a glove. It's the best seat I've ever sat in. You know, I know a guy that might disagree. He might think that's the best seat.
Russ likes driving this car, but back here is where you can really enjoy the ride. I simply push this button, the seats recline, put the shades up, and relax. From back here I can control everything, from the lights to the entertainment system, from this tablet which is in the center console. It even has an air freshener. I turn on the seat massager because this B7 has both executive packages. And everything you see here is real merino leather. Actually, the only thing missing is a cabin steward. Oh, wait a second. Hey, Russ, what do you say we pull into the next drive-thru so we can grab a coffee?
I gotta tell you, this BMW really did impress me. And believe it or not, that's not something that's easy to do these days. Now all you have to decide is whether you want to sit up front, like I did, or in the back, where Edwin was. I'm Russ Bond, and this has been the 2-minute test drive. Yep, Eddie can drive it next time.
Motoring TV closed captioning is brought to you by Chevrolet. Find new roads. Kenzies Corner with Jim Kenzie.
You know, cars are not merely transportation devices. They're expressions of the driver's personality. We say something to the outside world about the kind of car we drive. I mean, let's face it, you don't need a spiffy number like this just to get to the office. But I wonder what people are saying to the outside of the world when they're hanging stuffed cats all over their cars. I mean, we've got Garfields glued to the back window, we've got Garfields hanging out of the trunk, and they're not even anatomically correct. Then there's the yellow signs that people stick all over their cars saying, baby on board or mother-in-law in the trunk. I mean, if they're so concerned about the safety of these relatives of theirs, take the signs down so you can see where you're going. And how about the stuff hanging from the rearview mirror? We've got bronzed baby shoes and we've got fuzzy dice. And the latest thing are these little shrines, temples hanging from the mirrors. What are they doing, praying to God that they'll get home safely? I mean, I'm not one to knock divine intervention, but if you really want to help yourself out, folks, take the stuff off the car so you can see where you're going. This is Jim Kenzie for Motoring 90.
You know, the hatch has been gone from North America for 17 years, yet the Honda Civic has been Canada's best-selling car for over 18, so the absence of the hatch obviously hasn't hurt. So you would think that Honda's desire to continue to dominate this compact segment would be a no-brainer. However, while Honda has been gone, consumers have found lots of alternatives in this segment as the competition has been quick to jump in. It should be interesting. Before we go, Motoring TV and the Car Guide have joined forces to bring you what we think is the best one-stop automotive site in Canada. Stories by leading Canadian writers, more videos, and 30 years of Motoring TV archives. Check out our TSN broadcast schedule and join us on Facebook and Twitter for the total Motoring TV experience. That's it for now. We'll see you next time out as we continue to bring you more stories about cars and the people who drive them.
We compete across the entire compact car segment, but our two closest competitors are the Volkswagen Golf and the Mazda 3. And we find with the new sporty design language of the vehicle, as well as the new Super Global platform and chassis and handling dynamics, we're really hoping that the new Impreza will be incredibly competitive.